Half a day ago, I was sitting just down here to my right, along with about 1,000 other people, to hear the experience of Nazanin and Richard Zagari Ratcliffe. It was a meeting timed consciously to be on International Women's Day. Yesterday was also listed in my church calendar as for commemorating 3 historic luminaries: Edward King, who was once principal of my old theological college; Felix, an Anglo-Saxon bishop of East Anglia, of whom I know absolutely nothing; and Geoffrey Stoddart Kennedy, a heroic First World War army chaplain, whose grandson, Andrew, was formerly a vicar in this diocese, and whom I knew and still know quite well. Today, these few hours later, is listed, as was announced by Anna earlier, as a National COVID Day of Reflection. And it is also the first Sunday of Lent, and so draws our attention particularly to the temptation of Jesus. And then, to add a characteristically Lenten cherry on the top of this already rather over-iced cake, we have just sung what I have always found to be one of the most depressing hymns, 40 Days and 40 Nights. It's with all these various things in my mind that I find myself now preaching to you. So for the moment, I'm going to ignore all of that and tell you with extreme mundanity what I did at the start of this day. I got out of bed. I washed. I shaved. Put my clothes on and had breakfast. You will, I presume, have done some very similar things. Basic preparations. We make ourselves ready by doing a few simple but necessary things. We focus. We clear the distractions so that we can get started. In my case, at least, and in contrast to the effect on me of today's gradual hymn, this all rather sets me up cheerfully about my day. There is around us a towering heap of earthly distractions. I've listed, for your edification, some of those which are very much in my mind and bearing upon me this morning. I could easily have listed many, many more. Each of you, every one of us, will have our own lists, things that can easily clutter and distract and confuse us. For every one of us, it's probably best to do first things first, to ready ourselves. And that brings me back to Lent. Its purpose is to simplify our lives, to help us put aside our lives' complications and distractions, and to focus on what matters. Take today's readings. There is a lot I could be saying about the reading from Deuteronomy, the all too present current echoes of the Old Testament occupation of their promised land by the Israelites. the sacerdotal role of the life of God's people. The bold insistence that the worship of God demands that we celebrate all God's bounty, explicitly along with, the aliens among us. There's much more. But I simply want you to notice that God's people are told there to use the first fruits of each season as a way to worship God. Now, these were agricultural and pastoral people, so that was mainly about food they were producing. Our lives are very different. Their structure is very different. It's therefore asking ourselves, what in our daily, our weekly, our monthly, our annual rhythms might we be using to remind us of God? And what simple message can we draw from the story of Jesus being tempted? Again, there are countless that I have heard drawn and could draw myself. But visualize him in extremis, alone, desperately hungry, conscious of special powers and a mission from God announced in his baptism shortly beforehand, pulled in many directions. Where does he focus? We had a little dialogue there. Not on the distractions, but on the enduring presence and the certainty of God. For you, Lent in a nutshell. Eyes on God, first things first.